Good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, July 19th, 2024. This is a regular meeting of the Commissioners of the City of Rehoboth. We are live at City Hall Commissioners Room, second floor. I'd like to call this meeting to order at exactly 2 o'clock p.m. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do roll call. Commissioner Don Preston. Absent. Commissioner Tony Sharp.
Here.
Commissioner Ed Chernowski.
Here.
Commissioner Patrick Gossett.
Here.
Commissioner Tim Bennett.
Here.
Commissioner Bunky Markert.
Here.
Mayor Stan Mills is here, and we have a quorum and are able to formally conduct business today. I'd also like to introduce staff it takes to run this meeting. City Secretary Ann Womack, raise your hand over here. Tedder, our city manager, is under the weather, and so Assistant City Manager Evan Miller is filling in for him today. City Solicitor Alex Burns, Keith Banks, Chief of Police, Henry Matlos, Public Works Supervisor, Lynn Cohen in the back corner, Communications Supervisor, Bert Dukes, Financial Director over there. Oh, on this other side, we have Mary Ellen Gray, Planning and Community Development Director. Next to her is Matt Janis, Chief Building Official. And I think we got everybody. I'm expecting Don to come in at some point, but we will see. With that, I want to thank you all for being here in person. I also want to thank those that are watching virtually. For those that are in person, as you know, we seek your input at selected agenda items when you're on topic. And we will have a 3-minute timed allowance. And otherwise, there is also an opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting. That's for off-topic, and that'll also be a 3-minute timing. Support documents, those are documents that support our agenda items when they're ready in front of a meeting. A sufficient amount of time, then they are embedded in the agenda. Go to cityrehoboth.com. And search for the meeting date and bring up, you'll be able to bring up the agenda and all the support documents, the same things. There's 105 pages of support documents today. So we try to make those available to everybody. With that, I'm also want to make note that old business B, which has to do with change orders, is being deleted from the agenda. I inadvertently included this agenda in the agenda. Change orders, if you recall, were reviewed during our last workshop meeting with the mention that some change orders are outstanding, awaiting review and submittal by the construction management company, and so new change orders will be presented on future commissioner agendas. With that, we'll go to correspondence, and we did not receive anything timely enough to embed it in the agenda. I know Francis Kelleher is here, did submit something, and we'll bring that up under basements. And with that, we're going to keep on moving along to approval of minutes. We have 5 sets of minutes in front of us, and those 5 sets are 3 sets of executive session minutes, date back to 2023, September 19th, October 10th, October 20th, and then a special meeting held on July 8th, 2024, and a regular meeting held on June 21, 2024. Are there any corrections needed for those minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve all 5 sets of minutes as noted.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Ed Chernowski to approve the 5 sets of minutes as articulated. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval of those 5 sets of minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, and the minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you very much. With that, we're going to move right along to City Manager's report.
Mayor.
Evan?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and members of the public. I'm happy to report that the Beach Patrol project has been moving along steadily the past few weeks following resolution of design and pile modifications. 2 large concrete pours occurred this week, with additional pours expected over the next few weeks. An update on the Rehoboth Avenue paving that's coming this fall and maybe next spring. The city continues to coordinate with DelDOT and its contractor, ADEL, in preparation for the repaving of Rehoboth Avenue beginning this fall. No work will take place Thursday, October 24th through Sunday, October 27th, as Rehoboth celebrates the annual Sea Witch Festival. DelDOT has provided the city with notice that due to the volume and intricacy of the paving work around parking spaces and the fact that work will be taking place overnight, it's likely that the contractor will need to shut down at some point this winter and return in the spring to complete remaining work before May 1st. As you may know, paving is heavily temperature dependent. An update on the Scarborough Avenue Extended Park. All of the required permits for the Scarborough Avenue Extended Park Living Shoreline project has been received, and the city's been given authorization to complete that project. A contractor will install 65 linear feet of living shoreline July 29th, and the shoreline will consist of 16-inch diameter, high-density core logs and improved plants. You may have noted on the city's social media pages that the city of Rehoboth Beach has installed 2 pizza box bins at Rehoboth and Baltimore Avenues on the boardwalk. The bins purchased from Clean River help keep the bulky boxes out of trash cans, leaving more space for other discarded items. So far, they're working very well and helping our staff keep the boardwalk and beach clean. By the way, the Facebook post about this received more than 10,000 likes, and I'd like to give credit to our Director of Public Works, Henry Matlos, for the idea to bring these bins to Rehoboth. The only street aid expenditure this month is $11,222.66, which is payable to Delmarva Power. The deadline for the city's annual photo completion, Rehoboth Reflections, is approaching. Shutterbugs have until September 6th to submit up to 3 high-quality horizontal or landscape photos to the competition. Selected photos will be featured in the city's 2025 calendar, which is mailed to all property owners. Photos may also be submitted at cityofrehoboth.com/Rehoboth Reflections. The staff continues to monitor functioning of the terracotta fountain at Garden of the Navigators. Caswell was on site yesterday to assess the fountain and believes that the breaker on the pump may be tripping after rainfall events. The fountain is functioning as it's designed to now, and we'll continue to monitor, and if it goes down again, we'll have the contractor back out to consider replacing the pump. Finally, I'm happy to announce and just want to thank Representative Pete Schwarzkopf for providing the city with CTF funds that will help with purchasing additional Moby mats and beach wheelchairs. So just wanted to express our appreciation for Representative Schwarzkopf for those funds.
CTF meaning?
The Community Transportation Fund, that's essentially a fund, monies that's given to each legislator to designate to municipalities for various transportation-related projects. So
Thank you.
that's all I have to report, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Question.
The amount was $9,772, I believe, was the CTF funds that we were given for that. That was around $7,000. I'd have to pull the quote for that work.
Thank you very much.
Yes, total.
Thank you. With that, are
Mayor,
there any
I'm
further
sorry,
questions up here? Did you?
What?
Street aid approval?
We're not doing that anymore, right?
Oh,
No, no.
yeah, okay.
I had a question. I think at one of our last meetings, a couple constituents have mentioned that there might have been an error in the tax bills. Did you investigate that? Do we have an update or any?
We did,
information?
yeah. So thank you. I'll try and pull up the email which summarizes it. But yes, there was a mistake that was made with the property tax bills. So any customer that has multiple properties did receive one bill showing a total balance due for all of the properties. So unfortunately, the current tax amount for the other properties showed a past due balance when it's not past due. So the amounts on the bill are correct, they're just not broken down by the different accounts. This was a mistake that was just made when the bills were being run. We've made a note to make sure that we don't have this mistake happen in the future. And then we're currently in the process of keeping a list of all the property owners that have been affected by that. Certainly anybody who has any questions about their utility bill can contact the utility billing department just by calling City Hall. And we're happy to help resolve that. Apologize for the inconvenience this has caused.
Just one clarification.
Ed, I'm sorry, did you have another,
No, that was it. I think Patrick might have had something.
Commissioner
Just one
Sharp?
clarification on the tax bill issue.
Yes.
Did we do any outreach to those involved? Or are we waiting for them to call us?
That's a good question. I would have to check with the utility billing department to see. I'm sure we've been doing proactive outreach to them, but I can confirm that and get back to you.
And just out of curiosity, was this a human error or a systems error, or do you know?
This was a human error.
Human error?
Yes.
So we have not upgraded a system or changed a system or whatever, we just made an honest mistake?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Anybody?
One other question. On those repaving of Rehoboth Avenue, is that bandstand to the circle or what portion?
So they're actually going to start at the canal and work. They're going to start with concrete, concrete being the sidewalk, the curbs, and they're going to start at the canal, work their way towards the roundabout, and then make their way from the roundabout down to the boardwalk.
So it is the incomplete Rehoboth
Yes.
Avenue.
Yes, yep, from the
Thank you.
canal all the way to the boardwalk.
But we're paying for the one portion or the one section that is city-owned.
Correct, which is the first 2 blocks of Rehoboth Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you. And let the record show Commissioner Don Preston joined us at 2:12. Don, we're talking about city manager's report. Do you have any questions? Nope,
thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item.
Mayor, before you
Whoop.
move, I'm sorry, I'm just sitting here thinking about this tax bill issue. I would very much want to just go on the record to say, if we know the properties that are involved, it should be incumbent on the city to notify the individuals that are involved. And I know you're going to check into that, but it seems like it should be standard process that if we make an error, human and honest error, or any other kind of error, and we know the universe of people involved, that we should take the initiative. Because it also makes me wonder, I don't have 100% confidence now that my bill that I got, or possibly anyone else's, I don't own multiple properties, but are we absolutely certain it is completely restricted to multiple properties? Is that a yes? That's great to know. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to City Solicitor's report. Alex Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a quick update today. The city's investigating whether, thank you. The city's investigating whether it is entitled to compensation relating to PFAS chemicals, commonly known as forever chemicals. There's some multi-district litigation coming out of the U.S. District for South Carolina. The litigation's been going on for many years. Settlements have been approved. One against 3M Company, over $10 billion for local water utilities. Another settlement's been approved involving DuPont for over $1 billion. So we're just doing our due diligence to see if we have any claims and preserving those claims. And I think Henry's here. He might have some more technical knowledge about it.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Mayor, I would like Henry to address just the PFAS, just to clarify and answer any questions the commissioners might have.
And just one other thing I'd add, if this does materialize into something, I would suggest this becomes a future agenda item.
Okay. Henry?
Thank you. So the PFAS, as City Solicitor said, has been investigated for a long time. It's found to be in 99% of the people in the United States, in their bodies. And it's in Teflon, clothes, dental floss, makeup, many items. Now, as far as the Rehoboth drinking water, it meets or exceeds all federal and state standards, both the primary and the secondary standards. Now, in 2029, recent legislation will require a maximum of 4 parts per trillion of PFAS and PFOA. That's one of the subchemicals of it. And right now, there is no, it's called an MCL, a maximum contaminant level. So there's going to be more on this. Right now, Newark has a state-of-the-art facility, a water treatment facility, which I was able to see last month. And the city manager, assistant city manager, are going up there later this month and actually meeting the Lewis DPW also there for a tour of the plant to see their plant. So there's going to be more on this. Again, it's not a maximum contaminant level until 2029, but there's going to be, you're going to see in the CIP for next year, items to design and build additional treatment facilities. We have 6 wells. 4 of the wells have carbon filtration, which does treat for PFAS. 2 of the wells are pumped directly into the distribution system and do not have treatment. So that's where we would be looking largely for our efforts. And those are the 2 wells. The one is by the BB complex, and the other is by Breezewood that do not have the carbon filtration.
Any questions of the commissioners? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alex, you mentioned possibly put this on a future agenda. Is that if this becomes a class action, or what would be the trigger for me?
So it has been a class action for multiple years now, and it's matured to the stage where settlements have been approved by the U.S. District Judge overseeing this matter. I expect there will be multiple other settlements. And so if we're going to, as Henry mentioned, there will be additional testing. If the testing indicates that the city is eligible to participate in these matters, I think it makes sense to continue the discussion.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. With that, we're going to move on to our departmental reports. If you notice, all the standard reporting by building and licensing, communications, police, and Alderman Court are embedded as support documents in the agenda. So the first item would be a presentation by the Finance Department with T-bill earnings. And we have a support document there.
Yeah, we do. Thank you, Mayor. So Bert Dukes, the city's finance director, is here to provide you all with a presentation, just an update on the financial status of the city, including the T-bill earnings, which is included as an item in the agenda, as a support document in the agenda. And if you could just switch the controls over to the lectern. And with that, Bert, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. And
Bert, can you just pull the microphone a little bit? Thank you.
grow a little taller. We have a series of slides here, and I think it might add some clarity, provide a better understanding of the city's financial position. I want to start by first showing our year-to-date progress in our major revenue categories for April to June of 2024 compared to the prior year. In total, the city has raised revenue of $5.8 million versus $4.8 in the prior year, $975,000 change. And your parking meters, the parking meter revenue increased by 30%. And that seemed logical because we increased the rates from $3 an hour to $4 an hour. So it doesn't seem that there's too much resistance on the users. They're still paying for parking. The meters and fines are up slightly. Building permits, I think that's more of a timing issue. You never know. And so I don't know that that really provides much insight on what it's going to be at the end of the year. Your hotel accommodations are about flat, $225,000 in that tax. It's a 3% tax that the city receives. Property transfer tax is still doing well. Again, it goes up and down, and you can have months where it drops way down. So I don't think this is a great period to try to make a forecast on what we're going to get in property tax, but we are up $152,000. So that looks, I don't know what you say encouraging, but it's not bad news for sure. I want to take a look at the chart and dispel some of the feelings that the city's broke. I want to give you a number here. I don't know whether you can see it, but it's the far second to the left column where it shows our fund balance in 2009. Fund balance is essentially talking about our short-term position, liquid assets, and it was less than $1 million in 2009. Over the years, you know, and let me just say why. We had a real estate recession, and we had over budgeted our transfer tax, and it dropped in half. So that had an impact. And but after that, we were certainly cautious not to over budget transfer tax. And you'll see from 2009, it improved. And as of the last audited number we have, and the estimated number for 2024, which we'll have shortly, but we're over $20 million. So that's pretty good progress. And you can say, well, why did we raise that much money? And I think there are several reasons. We were taking on a significant amount of debt, and I'll get to the debt slide, but also we had capital projects, and it's not bad to have more than not enough. So those are pretty good numbers. There are cities a lot larger than Rehoboth that don't have $20 million in their fund balance. And this is only in our general fund. I want to address a revenue mix. And people say, well, why is revenue mix even important? It is in a sense that this city lives heavily on user fees. In this first bar, you'll see that we have 44% there. Well, that means that 44% of the city's revenue is coming from parking sources. That's an increase from 39% in the past year. So we love the fact that, you know, somebody else is paying for us. The other taxes consist of your transfer tax, your rental tax, and hotel tax. Property taxes have been in the 10% area. So, you know, of the total revenue in our general fund, about 10% comes from property taxes. And I want to show you on this next slide what we did in this last budget, and that we increased our revenue from parking and the other taxes by almost $3 million, 3.3 million. Property tax, we increased that $592,000. So basically, for every dollar of property tax increase, we raise $5 from these user fees and parking and other taxes. And I think the thinking at the time that the commissioners voted was probably that it's fair to share the cost burden, and to have zero property taxes is probably not a good thing if we want to go borrow money here. The revenue mix does mean something to creditors. So that is what it is. Our revenue less expenses, we've had conservative budgeting, but in recent years, our general fund's done fairly well performance-wise. And we had some really good years in transfer tax. A couple years ago, we had $4 million in transfer tax, and was almost triple what, it was more than triple what we really even budgeted or expected. So that was very positive, but you'll see that there's a trend downward, and it's probably likely to continue to, more normal levels that we've had in the past. Operating expenditures, I compared 2021 to 2024, and obviously they've increased, and some of the increases were in, building licensing. We've expanded the department. There's more costs there. Our 911 department increased significantly. The wages weren't competitive with other 911 departments, and I think we needed more staff. It's a 24/7 operation. The chief can talk more about that sometime. And what I've done here is I went through and said, well, why, I won't go through every item here because I'm probably putting some of you to sleep now, but I mean, I went through here and said, well, why did these changes occur from 2021 to the current year? Well, I mean, lower legal fees in the commissioners. We only have one treasurer. Some administration items, what caused an increase in professional services. It was, some parking studies and other consultants. So I'll kind of bandstand. You'll notice that you had a tremendous increase in that. That's because of COVID. We didn't have a bandstand program that year. Medical insurance in this year's budget increased significantly. It was a shocker. We haven't had significant increases. We buy our health insurance through the state of Delaware's group program, and it went up 27%. So that was painful. And I think a final slide, a couple slides that I want to make is our outstanding debt. The city, all the debt of the city is guaranteed by the full faith and credit of the city government. We have, essentially, our debt is in three categories. We have wastewater, water, and the general fund. All debt that we have is financed at less than 2% or less. We did a refinancing of the Lynchwell loan, which was through the state of Delaware, and we also did refinancing of the debt for the city hall. And that saved about $1 million over the term. We didn't extend the maturity. I don't think anybody can borrow money at 1.61 right now. These wastewater loans, we have 3 loans through the county. As we started work on different projects, we realized that more money was required, and the county actually extended us $300,000. Actually, it was $3 million, and 0% interest. And then there were 2 other loans at smaller amounts that came out. The ocean outfall loan was from the SRF fund, state of Delaware, and we are still drawing on one portion of it. So we will be increasing our debt, but at the same time, we'll be amortizing it. So I think your total debt is gonna for the next few years, it'll be in the $60 million range. A nice thing about this wastewater debt through the SRS fund is that per agreement, the county pays 42% of the debt service costs. So while the debt's $60 million, we have a customer, you could say, that shares some of that cost. So our debt situation is under control. The government for the city hall, originally that debt was $18 million. And we refinanced that. That was originally with USDA. And we brought the rate down, paid off USDA. And we're basically about $1.3 million a year in debt service cost. which is not a lot of money when you consider we've got a $38 million budget. So I know some people have misinterpreted our financial position, and I think anybody that wanted to bother to go to the internet under the government tab and then under the budget tab on the city website, you can see the audit reports and our budgets. And I would say there's been probably no time in the history of Rehoboth where we've had a stronger financial position. It's just, we have a lot of projects going on, and we seem to be handling everything and as far as our financial capability. I guess I'll stop there. I can give you the Treasury report, but I think I'll stop and we can accept questions and offer clarification if anybody has a question. Excuse me.
Bert,
Commissioners have questions so far?
yeah, can we go to slide 6, please?
Slide 6.
Yeah. So what it looks like to me, and I think we were told, if you look at that middle column, revenue in excess of expenditures for FY '24, and this is only for the general fund, it looks like we may have a surplus of over 2.7 million.
Yeah, well, what happened with that, Commissioner, is we had a grant for $850,000 or $834,000. It had to qualify, and we didn't exclude that in income because I wanted to make sure it was something we would be able to include. Remember last year we had to dot our I's and cross our T's and have a vote to approve the use of the money for payroll.
That was ARPA, right, Bert?
That was ARPA. This is what we're talking about is ARPA. So we basically filed with the Treasury Department and submitted our report, and it's in this number now. We didn't include it at the time during the budget process because it hasn't really been finalized. Something else that affected us, we had the boardwalk, we had the project on Baltimore Avenue, and it got stalled, as we all know, but I mean, we receive invoices from contractors all the way up into May, and I was being a little cautious, thinking that, well, it wouldn't, and this happened back when we were building City Hall. All of a sudden, you think you're okay, and all of a sudden on May 1st, you get an invoice for $500,000. So we were a little conservative, expecting to receive more costs than we actually had. So I think those were the two main drivers. There's some other smaller ones, but I mean, I think it would have been worse to have said, I'm going to have $2.5 million and then only have $1.5 million. So I think we erred on the side of caution. Maybe we could have done a little better, I don't know, but I mean, there was a reason why we didn't say 2.7 million.
Okay. But it is true that right now, the unaudited financials look like we have a surplus from FY '24 for 2.7.
Yeah, I've submitted statements, and we have a few other adjustments, like, but I mean, basically, it's done.
And is it still true, because I think at the same meeting, it was mentioned that our Water Enterprise Fund we were projecting about $1 million surplus in that?
That's correct.
That is correct.
Well, and there's some good news on this, on the water fund too, because I say good news in the sense that our share of the operating costs for the wastewater fund are shared with 3 other communities, North Shores, Dewey Beach, and Henlopen Acres. And the county manages that. Well, the costs are basically distributed based upon usage. I mean, and our usage, our percentage of usage at the wastewater treatment facility is going down. We've added the West Rehoboth flow. So the cost of operating the plant's going to be, the sharing will be more favorable. We used to be about 45%. It's looking like we're in the 30s now, so that's good.
And just, I just want to confirm, mostly for the public record, our accounting practice is an accrual basis versus a cash basis, correct?
Yeah,
Which is why
all governmental
invoices come
funds
in
are-
after.
Yeah, it's
after.
what's called modified accrual for governmental funds. And for your wastewater and your water fund, that's a full accrual. But modified accrual is, essentially, it doesn't really impact us that much because if you have taxes that are due beyond 60 days, you can't include those in income. In full accrual in a business, if you've got somebody who owes you $1 million and it's in the 90-day column, it's still in your income until somebody says it's a bad debt and you write it off.
Well, thank you. This was a very good presentation.
Any other questions by
I
the
have a-
Commissioner?
I-
Commissioner Bennett?
I just have a clarification, Bert. Thanks for this presentation. I just want to make sure for the record as well, if I heard you correctly, no time in history has Rehoboth Beach had a stronger financial position?
I don't think we've ever had $20 million.
No, but is that a correct statement?
I think, well, I can't go back to 1873, but
I understand that, but the narrative has been
But
how fiscally,
yeah,
what a
well,
fiscal mess we're in.
Yeah,
And that's not the case.
absolutely not.
Thank you.
I think there's a couple of cities that are about 5 times our size that have a fund balance of $20 million. In fact, I might go on the internet, but I was talking to the finance director down there, and I thought he said that their fund balance was around $20 million. They're about 5 times larger than us. So it's not bad. I think the one thing to be concerned about, and I bring up this topic on the revenue mix, a lot of people not delighted to get a higher tax bill, but we're shifting more and more of our costs to a stream of revenue that is not certain. And it's nice to have low property taxes. At the same time, I think as far as just fiscal responsibility, it's nice to have a source of revenue that you know is going to be there, that you're not dependent upon, having a rainy season, not having parking, and your other, user-based revenues are down. We haven't had that. We've been very lucky. We've been on, a fairly incredible roll, but things are going to change because you can already see the transfer tax is going down. So, and I suspect what's happening is we have a fewer number of transactions, but the dollar amounts are larger. So we're going to make budget, but we can't budget $4 million for transfer tax next year, I can tell you that. So I think keeping your eye on the revenue mix is a prudent thing to do.
Bert, on transfer taxes, was there a change in the formulation made by the state in how the amount of transfer taxes has been changed, or?
A few years ago, the state increased the amount, and it's now 4%. So what happens, the state allows the municipalities to have 1.5%, and the state keeps 2.5%. The county has the same treatment out for the areas outside the municipal areas. So there was a change, but our 1.5%, I don't believe that's changed. I think it's been that way.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner Preston?
Bert, I appreciate very much you saying that we might have been able to do a little better in some areas as we were budgeting, and I appreciate also the conservatism with which you do the budgeting. I will say that it's an uncomfortable position to be in as a commissioner, to sit here and understand that there is information that staff may have had during the budgeting cycle budgeting process that they didn't share with us. The reason I say that is the outcome of the property tax increase might have been different had we known this information and known that we would be in the financial position that we are today. That looks like we're north of, or maybe slightly under $2 million if you take out the grant that you were talking about, even though that appears to be included in the number that you have here. So as Evan and Taylor, as we look at ways to improve going forward, this transparency, at least to me as a new commissioner, is critical. because we are making decisions that we have now been skewered over for, with essentially a bit of our hands tied behind our back. So I hope that we can do better at this in the next budgeting process.
Well, I'd like to respond to you on that. I mean,
Certainly.
essentially, you're going to balance your FY '25 budget with the revenues that you're going to actually take in. And it is possible in times of distress that people will want to use other monies, prior year revenues, to use that, plug in and call that revenue. It's really not revenue. You're using your savings. It didn't seem, of course, it's up to you whether, in this time period, you wanted to use our fund balance to balance your budget.
I understand.
And I think it's been our history to avoid using prior year. And I bring up the point on the revenue mix just because, it seemed like a very fair distribution, and I think the commissioners voted correctly, personally.
So I agree with you, by the way. I think the revenue mix is still not healthy. I think there's still too great of a reliance on something that's unpredictable. And I've shared that with the staff a couple of times. It's the parking revenue bothers me, that we rely so heavily on something that could change. But I guess that's for another day. I just hope that we have full transparency into the facts in our next budgeting cycle.
Well, I think I have to take the hit on that, because when I was asked, they said, are we going to have a surplus? And I said, yeah, it's going to be over $1 million. I didn't elaborate, but I didn't think it was all that significant as far as how we created our 2025 budget. Then I think we did come back, and Evan offered a revision, said it's going to be about $2 million. So, we were short of that level, but it is what it is. Maybe we were too casual when I just said it's going to be over $1 million, but it's favorable.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I am astounded by this discussion. As a seasoned commissioner who suspected all along that I did not have the full picture, I just want to validate that as recent as our last meeting, I asked the question what our surplus was from the previous fiscal year. And I believe I was told $1 million in that ballpark. Might have been $1.4 million.
You're talking about 2023, 2024?
As of March 31,
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
I have asked this question over and over and over again. And I just want to validate, I don't want to hear any more explanations. I just want to validate that what I'm hearing today is a number that starts with 2,700,000. Take the 700,000 and think about that in a different way. But I am only now being confirmed that my suspicions all along were valid.
Well,
And Bert, to have to sit up here and make a decision that impacts every single taxpayer in this town, and for you to say wording like maybe I was too, maybe I was, I am furious, as you can tell. Bert, don't.
well, there is
I'm
going to be a
speaking.
response.
I am
Okay.
speaking. And this will be one of the last times I get to speak from up here. But however we got here, it is unconscionable, in my opinion, that for whatever reason, you put commissioners in this position. I voted against the budget. I voted against the tax increase. And now to be told, which makes me ask a question, was that tax increase at this particular time needed? I can only come to one conclusion. So I asked the rest of the commissioners, am I out to lunch Or does anybody else feel this way? It sounds like Commissioner Preston does, and I would love to hear other thoughts.
I, like you, Commissioner, voted against the budget and voted against the tax increase. I felt all along we weren't getting the right information, and it's the case. The fact that we're sitting here with $2.7 million in a surplus and raised all kinds of fees and raised parking and raised property taxes is just, in my opinion, disgusting.
Want a response?
No.
No?
I'd like to make a response. And the response is, we were dealing with the current year budget, not the results of the operating of last year. And we were dealing with the information that we knew. And again, I think I've articulated this before, we have a plan, which is what a budget is. It is not a prediction of any kind of financial activity. A lot of things can change, as Bert has, excuse me, explained about last year as to how we got the surplus. Some of that stuff is predictable and some of that stuff is not predictable. So all I'm getting at is, if we are going to entertain, as he said, the prospect of taking money effectively, once we have the surplus, it's in the bank, it's savings. And if we choose to do that, which we can do that. But we have to make that decision, and I think if we make that decision, we have a whole new set of things that we need to know about, such as the predictability of what the current year and future years are going to bring, and so forth and so on. It's not, I don't see this in terms of the approval of the budget. We are approving a plan, a proposed plan, and we do it in a prudent manner, and we do it with a lot of public input. And the fact that we chose to make certain changes with the budget that we increased, and that may play out in such a way that we will have a surplus this year, and that's, to me, that's the issue. It's like, what happens this year, and then we can make a decision, let's say, to reduce it for the next year or whatever. So we have options and so forth, but I think we as a body try to make the most prudent decisions we make. And one of the things that we had talked about is to coming up with some kind of policy with regard to what we do with the unobligated fund balance, and to choose what we do with that.
None of that is germane.
I think it is germane. I think it's as germane as your consternation about the thing. I agree with you wholly about understanding what the current conditions are, but they don't necessarily predict what was going to happen in the upcoming year. And that's the only difference I have with what you're saying.
Commissioner, my request stands that when we do budgeting, that we have all the facts that the staff has on this table.
I agree
Nothing
with that.
withheld
I agree
from
with
us.
that. I agree with that.
We cannot make sound public policy decisions without the facts. And we may have made a mistake.
Well, how would we have? If we know what the predicted expenses are going to be and so forth, we have to be able to present a balanced budget.
Certainly.
And that can be different in the upcoming year than the current year.
Commissioner, I'm saying that without all the facts.
All right, but okay, great. But I don't understand how that would have changed your decision. It may have. It may have.
It may
but
have.
It may not have.
Have you not sat up here since April?
I've been here the whole
heard,
time.
no, but heard you've always say perception's reality. What's the perception been
I understand
of us
that.
sitting up here?
I understand that.
No, what's the perception been?
Negative.
That we're broke.
Well, that's.
Are we broke?
No, we're not broke.
Thank
We are
you.
not broke. We have not been broke.
But that's what we're
And I
talking
think we
about.
all knew that. We certainly knew that. We are not broke. I mean, that's a perception that was made.
Well, I don't know that this discussion is even productive anymore, because the vote has already been taken. The information that I asked for and got, I do not believe was accurate, transparent, or full-throated. And that's all I'm saying.
Okay. And I think you
That's it.
voted with what you knew, what you felt you knew, you voted appropriately.
Well, I voted much differently than you.
Right. But
Yes.
you, but
So
based
apparently-
on your judgment, I think you
Yes.
voted appropriately, absolutely.
Alex has indicated we're getting a little beyond report. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask if anybody has any further questions related to this presentation.
Yeah, Mayor, I just have one other, and as we're looking at our current financial condition, and we've had some, it looks like our revenue for FY '25 is probably trending upward. And we've had some significant expenses that were not budgeted in the FY '25 year. When will we come back and revise and amend the FY '25 budget?
I'm not exactly sure. The city manager might have more insight on when that's done. But what you mentioned, you made a point a couple years ago. When we created our budget, you noticed that the general fund was balanced with revenues less than expenses. That's the case in this year's budget. I mean, what's balancing the budget is your water department. Without that revenue, you couldn't say you had a balanced budget because the general fund, as budgeted, was not budgeted at a surplus. And that was made fairly obvious at these meetings that we had.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have one last question. When was the earliest time this presentation could have been given other than today?
I'm not sure, whenever you wanted it.
No. When did you have the data that would have enabled this presentation to have been given earlier than today?
Well, I'd say, in May, we pretty well we felt we had all our costs in from construction, and we were pretty sure. I hadn't, the auditors came in the middle of June. So as far as the qualification of the grant money, you could say, I was pretty sure we were going to be okay, but nobody had blessed us until probably, June. As far as that 850,000.
I'm going to respectfully not accept that answer, and Mayor, please feel free to move on.
All right, thank you. And we will do that. Thank you, Bert. We know that.
Did you want a treasury report?
Sure. Is it non-controversial?
It is very positive. And let me see what we've got here. I'll find it. Yeah.
Do you have it on? Let's log into the conference.
Oh,
I'll pull it up for you.
okay.
Do you want to talk to it a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
You want to zoom in?
Okay, yeah. We started investing in U.S. government treasury bills in 2022. We started with $23 million, $23,500,000. The distribution is between the water transfer. All that money's been kept separately. In our year-to-date earnings, we've already earned $327,000. We've got a budget of $986,000. So in 25% of the year, we've got about a third of the revenue. So the rates could change, and they probably will, but right now we look like we're doing pretty well. The money is invested in 6-month and 90-day bills. And the maturities are September and December of this year. And we'll continue to roll those over. But essentially, we've increased the earning, we've gone up from 23.5 million to 25.3 million. So that's good news. Any questions or comments on that?
Anybody?
You know, the money we earn from the treasury bills or the investments, roughly, how does that compare? What's another funding source we have that's comparable?
Well, we shopped around. I mean, basically, the banks and other institutions are increasing. They were slow to increase, and we kept talking to our bank about obtaining, higher CD rates. But I think you can probably find the 5%, in a lot of places now. I think it's a lot of institutions have adjusted. But I would say this: there's nothing safer than a U.S. government treasury bill. It's,
Right.
so.
Well, it's way less, but no, well, I guess the question I was asking was, what, like, compared to what we earn in property taxes, how much does this contribute towards it?
Well, significantly. We're earning over $1 million a year in interest, and our property taxes this year, about 2.8 million? So it's a major piece. We're earning significant percentage just on interest.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bart.
One other question, if I may. We have addressed the fund balance policy before, and it has been discussed and then tabled, if you will.
Stagnated, yeah.
Is there a schedule for us to review that with updated information?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. So our next step was to gather some of the information related to actual expenditures from maintaining the beach, rebuilding the boardwalk, just to accurately reflect what some of the financial impacts of natural disasters has been in the past. And then also we were going to sit down with the new city manager as well. In the last meeting, he had made some comments about what he's seen in other municipalities in terms of a percentage to have in fund balance. So the goal right now is in August to bring back that information.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to Board and Commission reports are next. Board of Adjustment has, and Planning Commission have both provided reports that are embedded in the agenda. However, Vice Chair of the Planning Commission, Susan Gay, asked for an opportunity to be able to address the commissioners as well as to answer any questions the commissioners may pose. Susan?
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm Susan Gay, Vice Chair of the Planning Commission, as he just said. And you do have the report in your packet, and I appreciate having a few minutes today to give you a little bit more information about it, because we had a significant meeting last Friday, and I think it's always good for me to come and talk about significant accomplishments on our part. We approved the site plan for the Bellhaven Hotel. As I think everyone in the room may know by now, it was in the press this week. And it's been a while since there's been a large project that's been approved and built following site plan review. So I just wanted to briefly go over that process for people who may not be aware of it. Site plan review is covered in our code, and it's only for large projects. A project has to meet specific criteria related to either square footage, lot size, number of rooms, number of dwelling units in order to even qualify for needing site plan review. There are a number of purposes of site plan review, and I'm not going to name them all, but among them are protection of architectural massing, preservation of streetscapes, protection of natural resources. And the code calls for us to evaluate site plans for compliance with the zoning code, the comprehensive development plan, federal, state, county, and city regulations. And in addition to that, the code requires the Planning Commission to consider 21 additional factors for which we can attach conditions or restrictions. So, as with prior projects, we approved the Bellhaven plan last week. We approved it with conditions, as has been done for all previous projects that went through the process. A full notice of decision will be forthcoming. I have not seen it yet, but it will be forthcoming if you want to read the details of it. The construction plans have to still be submitted for approval by the building inspector. So there's a long way to go, but we feel we took a big step forward last Friday. And the other thing I want to mention is a comment that I made at the end of the meeting last Friday when I voted, and that is that we had, one of the speakers that day was a hotel owner who was adjacent to the Beach Patrol project. And he had commended the city on meeting with them on a regular basis so that the contractor and city officials and this owner, so he would get updated. And I really think the city should be doing that on all of these major projects because there are they're very complex. People are worried about some of the impact on surrounding businesses, whether they're adjacent businesses or not. There's going to be an impact with all this construction. So I strongly recommend that the city stay involved, put a team together consisting of communications, the management team for the project, and city officials to keep everyone updated on its progress. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions of Susan? Susan and Susan Stewart, raise your hand.
Yes,
member
I'm
of
joined
the
today by fellow Planning Commissioner
Planning,
Susan Stewart.
just to take it back to your group, to thank you very much. I know you all have been very committed to doing everything as timely as you can. You've got a full plate.
We do.
And you've been doing Thursday and Friday, 2 meetings a month instead of 1. What is on your plate coming up, just out of curiosity?
The August meeting, I think, will only be on the Friday because there are a few things that aren't quite ready for us yet. But we will be doing a preliminary site plan review for One Rehoboth. That's the hotel across the Rehoboth Avenue, also on the boardwalk, where the Dolly's was and where Grotto's is. That's going to be coming up at the August meeting. It's a continuation of the preliminary site plan review that started in January, but we renoticed it because of the length of time that's gone by, and also they have a significant development in that they just got their letter of map revision for the flood zone, and that was a significant hurdle that they had to overcome in order to come back to us. And then I believe we have a preliminary review for a minor subdivision that's going to be 3 lots on Bayard Avenue. So that's for August.
So you still got your hands full.
For quite some time coming forward, we do have our hands full. Yes.
Again, any questions from the commissioners?
I just have one comment, and before Susan leaves us, I'm really glad you talked about Chad's remarks from the last time.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like to me there's an opportunity in there. And I don't know if the city will take advantage of it, but it might be prudent to really ramp up a partnership here with Main Street on how the interested parties, be it communications, be it whatever, how Main Street could really help lead the way with businesses with some real creative thinking, possible different promotions, whatever they could come up with that might soften some of the interruption that is destined to take place. So we support Main Street, and it might be a very worthwhile champion from our liaison, who I believe at this time is Commissioner Chernowski, to get involved and help with that opportunity if anyone wants to take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Preston?
Yeah, this is not related to what you reported, and it may not be a question that you can answer, but maybe you can, Mayor. Several meetings ago, we had a presentation by Luke on some changes that you all wanted, and there was to be a second presentation after that, and then we were to hear from the city staff. And I don't, unless I've missed it, we haven't had the second presentation and we haven't heard from the city staff. Can you tell me, one of you, where we stand on that?
I do not know.
No, I know you don't know, but all I can say is it's pending. So we will probably,
When should we expect to?
when do you think? I
I don't know. I'd have to talk to Taylor.
Perhaps
Right,
before-
right now, it's in Taylor's hands, so when we get back, we'll get an answer for you when he gets back.
Oh, okay. I mean, the reason I ask is because I remember feeling some sense of urgency to the discussions, and it feels like it's just dropped off the radar screen. So if it hasn't dropped off the radar screen, I'd appreciate understanding where we are.
We'll let you know. We will. Thank you.
It has not prevented us from going through our process that's in the code, however. So it has not slowed us down, but I take your point, and I think it should be brought back.
We're good. Thank you.
Susan, I had a quick
Yeah.
question, and it might not be a fair question to ask, but I watched the meeting, and I know that you referred some issues to the Board of Adjustment.
Yes.
So do you have any thought of what we're looking at in terms of timing? In other words, if everything worked the way it should,
That's up to the applicant. I don't know.
okay.
That,
That's why I didn't think, I just wanted to ask
Yeah,
and see if there was
that-
any
I-
sort of
we
timing.
don't have a role in that.
Okay, thank you.
It's out of our hands.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I may, speaking of
Yes,
timing and
yes.
trying to be, use the phrase, which I just like, proactive on this, as we've experienced with the rebuilding of the Beach Patrol building and the restroom facility, there is, at this point, minimal disruption on the boardwalk. But certainly with the building of not only the Bellhaven Hotel and also One Rehoboth, that's going to have a major impact on the boardwalk and also the bandstand area with demolition of those buildings and then hauling away the demo material, et cetera. I would like to see in the next 90 days a beginning of a plan to address that area of the boardwalk and how we would be managing the crowd on the boardwalk, also protection of our citizens and visitors, traffic management for deliveries along Baltimore, Wilmington, Rehoboth Avenue, all of that information, traffic control. There's going to have to be utility relocations. There's going to be a lot of digging, all of that information. So there's not going to be shovel-ready project for either property in the next 90 days, but I would hope certainly a target date of at least December, we would have some outline of how we intend to manage those aspects of these projects.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks.
With that, we're going to move on to committee reports. There no written reports were submitted, but Commissioner Bunky Markert chairs the Trees and Green Infrastructure, and he wanted a few minutes to respond to a question posed at the last meeting. Bunky?
Yeah, we didn't have a meeting this month. However, in a prior meeting, Commissioner Sharp had asked a question about the tree program, and I can update you with the most recent report, which was at the end of June. The total receipts into the commemorative tree program is at $67,485. That's an increase of $3,350 since the end of March. And that accounts for 7 contributions, 6 in May, 1 in June. The contributions ranged from $350 up to $1,000. And I can't explain as to why there was, that's a lot more than we've had in previous quarters. The only thing I can suggest as a maybe is the fact that we had the diorama there and was adjacent to our display in the program. Maybe some people had a chance to see it or were maybe inspired by it or something. That's my only guess. But in any event, I think that's a nice showing for the quarter. And I also wanted to mention that Commissioner Sharp was the first chair of what is now the tree program, and I think this is testament to her dedication and as developing that program, and I just want to give recognition to her about that.
Commissioner Markert, the 67,000, could you just clarify? Is that a running total?
It's a
to
running
date
total. It's a cumulative total.
Since the inception?
Right, correct.
Okay, I would just hope that whoever is managing the commemorative tree program now thinks about how to and when to really promote it. Because I can't tell from your statistics if participation is constant, if it's trending down, if we've had other years that there was much more interest in it. Because for it to continue to be successful, I have always thought that during the September timeframe, when people start to think about the holidays and how they want to honor members of their family or any other event, that would be a good time to remind folks that it's there and why it's there and how they can participate. And if we don't put some attention to it, it may not have the vibrancy that we would like. So if you can take that under advisement, that might be good. And thank you for the information.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to community partner reports. We have 5 reports embedded in the agenda by the Chamber of Commerce, Museum, Main Street, Public Library, and Senior Center. Don't want to diminish the importance of these groups, but we've asked them to submit their reports written so that we can save a little time on our agenda. So thank you to those 5 groups. I think we're missing something from the Rehoboth Beach Volunteer Fire Department. They're invited to furnish information also. Maybe they'll resume doing that in the near future.
Mayor,
Yes.
on the Rehoboth Beach Volunteer Fire Company, and Commissioner Gossett, maybe you can refresh my memory. I thought it was about this time this year that we had thought maybe that the fire company would bring forward some kind of presentation or thoughts on a fee for transitioning from a contribution from the city to a more equitable fee per door, or however it could be structured. And I think you were a big proponent of that. Can you refresh my memory?
You're correct. That was tied in with the change in the donation policy that went from a donation to a grant policy.
Right.
Where applied conditions to the grant recipients. The first grant application or first grant payment was made in July to the organizations, and that was basically just the first check with no conditions attached. We did,
Okay.
however, attach other conditions for the next payment, but also as a requirement of the grant application, those individual organizations are to be back at the September regular meeting of the commission to report on the update of those, hopefully moving forward to those conditions being met for the second payment. No additional payments for those grants will be made until those conditions outlined in the grant applications and approved by the commissioners will be paid until they're met.
So the ball is in the fire company's
Correct.
court?
I believe that is correct, and I believe there have been some discussions among the city staff and fire company officials to move towards that.
Yeah, Evan can.
Yeah, thank you,
address.
Commissioners. So just an update from the staff side. We did meet with Warren from the fire company, and a result of that meeting was that we were going to work, the city staff was working on preparing a report which has the number of parcels by zoning category. So we have a preliminary report available, which we will make available to the fire company, and that's sort of a lot of the data that will help start the discussion about how to apply the fire protection fee. So we're working administratively on some of the information, the data that will go into the development of that fee.
I also received a couple of inquiries with regards to that, stating that the state had passed legislation that allowed this a fire safety fee to take place. To be specific about that, the legislation that was enacted provides that a county can, if they choose to, institute a fire safety fee. This is not a specific that you must institute it. Right. It is just allowing legislation that if the county, not municipalities, but if the county chose to, that they could in fact institute a fire service fee, and the only stipulation in that, if they choose to, that all of those fees to be collected had to be isolated in a separate fund. There was absolutely no formulation applied to how much is collected or how it to be collected or anything of that nature, other than it had to be in a separate fund, and also that those funds then had to be expended on volunteer fire service, and only, I forget the exact percentage, but only a small percentage could be attributed to administrative fees. So I would hope that whatever the Rehoboth Beach Volunteer Fire Company comes forward with parallels those same aspects of administrative fees and how it to be collected, and also maintaining a separate account for those funds.
And my last observation on it is maybe at some point, maybe in the September meeting, when y'all get an update, there could be some thought given of when is it the best time to start educating the public on a more proactive basis of how the commissioners had been talking about this since the budget back in the winter?
Correct.
And where it might wind up in the next few months or so.
I think that would be formulated into a communication plan that needs to be a part of that presentation from the fire service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we're going to move on to a public hearing of a permit of compliance request by John Techman of Goker LLC to modify the floor plan of an existing restaurant serving alcoholic beverages known as Semra's Mediterranean Grill pursuant to the Municipal Code 25-11 modifications of floor plan. The restaurant is located at 19 Rehoboth Avenue. Welcome, John. I assume you're John, correct? I'm sorry I haven't met you earlier. Very good. So again, this is a modification of a floor plan. And Matt, you're going to offer us a report, or you start first and read the
Sure, thank you, Mayor.
into the record what the documents are.
So we're here today, I'll go quickly. We're here for a restaurant permit of compliance for Semra's Mediterranean Grill. This is an amended permit of compliance. Starting with 215-2, permit required of the city code, no person shall operate, maintain, or carry on the business of a restaurant until the owner or lessee has received a permit of compliance. And in this case, we need to consider section 215-11, modification of floor plan. And that section was amended in May, but either way, it still reads the same in section A, which is the relevant portion of that code section. A reads, it shall be illegal for any restaurant or dinner theater to substantially modify its floor plan, seating arrangement, and/or the location and number and sizes of bar areas and permanent seated dining areas from the plan submitted to the city pursuant to the provisions of this chapter without a public hearing and a new permit of compliance. This section shall be interpreted to include dining patios and areas dedicated to outdoor dining on public space. So in this case, there was a permit of compliance previously submitted. It was approved by the commissioner several years ago, and a new permit of compliance is required because they are seeking a new bar. And so there are a few factors to consider here. Under section 215-5, A, no applicant shall receive a permit of compliance or a supplemental permit of compliance from the city until after a public hearing, at which hearing interested parties and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard. B, a permit of compliance or supplemental permit of compliance shall not be issued to the applicant or to the Delaware Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission except by a favorable vote of a majority of the members of the city commissioners. In reaching their decision, the commissioners shall consider the following factors, including but not limited to: 1, whether the applicant has demonstrated that the establishment's primary purpose would be that of a restaurant or dinner theater as defined in this chapter. 2, whether the establishment meets all the city's applicable zoning and licensing provisions. 3, whether the establishment would be a detriment to the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood and city. 4, whether the establishment will have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties or on the city of Rehoboth Beach, considering the impact on traffic, parking, and noise. And 5, whether the applicant has made any false representations or statements to the city's employees or to the commissioners in order to induce or prevent action by the city not only in regard to the pertinent pending application under this chapter, but also in regard to the issuance of a building permit or business license for the subject establishment.
Very good. Thank you. Matt, we'll
And one
get-
more thing, sorry,
Oh,
I just had to get a sip of water there.
I'm sorry.
So there are a set of materials that have been provided to the commissioners. I'd like to move them into the record. There's a public notice. It was posted on June 27, 2024. It was also published in the Cape Gazette on July 2nd and in the Delaware State News on July 3rd. It was also provided to residents within 200 feet of the establishment. There's also a building inspector report from Chief Building Inspector Matthew Janis to the mayor and commissioners dated June 26, 2024, titled Application Number 0324-03, Amended Restaurant Permit of Compliance, Semraz Mediterranean Grill, 19 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. There's also an application for permit of compliance provided to the commissioners. It was received by Ann Womack, Secretary, on March 19th, 2024. The application indicates it's being an application for an amended restaurant permit of compliance. The submittal checklist in the application is attached and signed by Mr. Techman. There's an indication that the fee of $1,250 has been paid. Also included is the checklist for complying with zoning code section 270-19 titled Use Restrictions. There's also a copy of the menu for Semraz Mediterranean Grill and a color-coded floor plan dated January 26, 2024, identified as Delineation Plan A0.0, prepared by In Place Design. That's all I have, thanks.
Thank you very much. Matt, building and licensing report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and happy Friday to you and the commissioners. The long story short, I know you guys like the long short of it. So what triggered this was a relocation and an expansion of square footage to the bar area and additional seats. So that's what triggered this application today. Before you today is application number 0324-03. It is an amended restaurant permit of compliance for Semraz Mediterranean Grill at 19 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. This is an application to amend an existing permit of compliance for a restaurant known as Semraz Mediterranean Grill. This application does not include any application for for supplemental permit of compliance for the dining patio, as the restaurant does not have a dining patio. The following is a complete report for the application referenced above to be heard. Pursuant to section 215-3, the applicant is indeed John Techman of 5 Glade Circle East, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. The name of the restaurant is Semraz Mediterranean Grill, located at 19 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. The restaurant is a table service establishment serving lunch and dinner. The restaurant is located at 19 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. Pursuant to the plans submitted, the following is true. The property is, again, located at 19 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. The structure is a one-story building with mixed use and a proposed area for permanent seated dining in a C1 Central Commercial Zoning District. Pursuant to Section 270-13C3D, a restaurant use serving alcoholic beverages is permitted. The following were the calculations presented for the documentation that was submitted. The service area for kitchen facilities, storage, restrooms, employee stations, hallways, and utilities. The proposed was 1,400 square feet. The calculated was 1,031 square feet. The dining area proposed was 1,200 square feet. The calculated was 538 square feet. The permanent seated dining was proposed at 67 and calculated at 67. The bar area was applied for as 200 square feet, but actually calculated as 182 square feet. There is no dance floor for this application. The bar seats were 8 as shown on the proposed and calculated as 8. The restaurant gross floor area was proposed to be 2,600 square feet, 2,600 square feet. And the calculated was 2,483 square feet, giving us a ratio of bar to permanent seated dining. Proposed was 12.0, and the calculated was actually 11.9. Pursuant to Section 215.1 definitions, there is no patio for this permit of compliance. The designed areas for proposed food storage and preparation are shown and labeled on the attached plans. The distance to the nearest property lines of the nearest church, public park, and residential lot are as follows. All Saints Church is approximately 1,822 feet by way of west on Rehoboth Avenue, north on First Street, east on Maryland Avenue. Lake Gerard Park, approximately 1,992 feet by way of west on Rehoboth Avenue, north on First Street. And the nearest residential lot zoned R2 is 28 Maryland Avenue, approximately 1,059 feet by way of west on Rehoboth Avenue, north on First Street. The applicant has stated that the approximate percentage of revenue between the sale of alcohol and food is 20% alcohol and 80% food. Authorization for the city to investigate is attached. Written and dated declaration by the applicant is attached, and the fee of $1,250 has been paid. Any questions?
Any questions among the commissioners? Matt, some of these drawings are stamped, received in March and some in May. Could you just help us understand if there was a delay on somebody's part that we can help remedy next time?
That's a great question, Mayor. What we do is take an initial submission with one set of documents so that we can determine that the application is complete and consists of all the information that we need. And then at that time, we put the burden on the applicant to give the required number of additional copies to present to the Board of Commissioners here. So in an effort to try to keep down paper costs and paper waste, once we determine that the application is complete and submitted correctly, we then require the additional copies to come in.
Good, very good. All right, we're going to turn to restaurant representative, Mr. Techman. Is there anything you'd like to offer to us?
The only thing I like to say is that we've been in business since 2012. I think it's an asset to the city of Rehoboth and the community. We are a restaurant with a bar, not a bar with a restaurant, and we plan to keep it that way. We originally started with a small bar of 4 seats, and we're just upgrading that to 8 seats when we made our renovations this past winter. So that's basically what we're looking to do, just to improve the restaurant and the business and keep it a positive business in the community. That's it.
So you first opened doors in 2012?
We opened in 2012, yes.
So been there over a decade. Very good. I think some of us, at least 2 of us here, acted on that. So glad to see you have longevity. And as far as I know, that you've never been a problem to the city, which makes this rather easy for me to look at.
Mayor?
This is a public hearing, so after our comments, then we'll go to the public. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a quick clarification, Matt.
Yes, ma'am.
This seems very straightforward to me, and I'm wondering why there is no agenda item report attached, which has a line on there for staff recommendation that could have been very straightforward, that the staff recommends that the commissioners approve. Is there some problem in filling that out?
No, and going forward, we'll have an
Okay.
action item report.
That'd be great,
For you,
just for
yep.
efficiency and for everybody in the room. Things move a lot faster when we can also see the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, this is a public hearing, so is there anybody in the, up here that would like to say anything for or against? Harvey? Procedures, state your name and relationship to
Harvey
the
Schulman, 149B Henlopen Avenue,
city.
not A.
The rear, very good.
It's nice to have a locally owned, locally run restaurant in Rehoboth, not just a chain where they've been around a while, and to have different food like Mediterranean food. So I'm speaking in support of this. And that's the shortest you've ever heard me speak, Mayor.
It is.
Thank you, Harvey. Anybody else? Any comments, pro or con? Again, this is a public hearing, so once I close it, you will lose that opportunity to speak. And we'll close the public hearing portion of this and bring it back to the commissioners for discussion and/or entertaining a motion.
Mayor, I move we grant a supplemental permit of compliance to.
Is it just a regular? It's just an amended permit of
okay.
compliance.
I move we grant an amendment permit of compliance for Semra's Mediterranean Grill. I find the following to be true, that the proper application for a restaurant permit of compliance has been filed, that the proper fee has been paid, that the proper notifications have been made, that all parties wishing to be heard have been heard, that the primary purpose is that of a restaurant based on their application and menu submitted, that the restaurant meets the city's applicable zoning and licensing provisions, that the restaurant would not be a detriment to the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood or the city, and that the restaurant will not have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties or on the city of Rehoboth Beach, considering the impact on traffic, parking, and noise, that the applicant has made no false statements to the city employees or that of the commissioners. Therefore, I make a motion that the city manager issue the applicant's permit of compliance for the operation of a restaurant called Semra's Mediterranean Grill.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ed Chernowski and a second by Commissioner Tony Sharp to grant an amended permit of compliance to Semra's Mediterranean Grill as stated. Is there any further discussion? If not, I've been asked to do a roll call vote and to give the reasons for your.
You can simply state that you concur with the motion maker or another colleague. You don't have to give out all, but you're welcome to.
So we'll start on my left, Commissioner Don Preston.
I vote aye for a couple of reasons. One, the staff's assessment of this, and also the fact that the business has been in the city for quite some time and is an asset to the city and hasn't been any trouble to the city. So for those reasons, I vote aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Tony Sharp,
I concur and I vote aye.
Commissioner Ed Chernowski,
I vote aye and I concur.
Commissioner Patrick Gossett,
Aye, and concur with all regions, and congratulations.
Commissioner Tim Bennett,
I vote aye, and I concur with my colleagues.
Commissioner Bunky Markert,
I vote aye as well for the same reasons.
and the chair votes aye for the same reasons too. Congratulations. You do not have to hang around if you don't want,
Thank you very
but
much.
you're welcome to.
And hope to see everybody at the restaurant.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. With that, we're going to go to the first item of old business, discuss and possible consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 92, Section 9238, parking restricted for certain vehicles, Section 92264, special considerations and exceptions, Chapter 92, Section 95-12, definitions, Chapter 195, Section 195-1, definitions, and Chapter 224, Section 224-2, smoking tobacco products, to remove rules and regulations for Deauville Beach as they related to parking, beach concessions, and smoking. Would you start off with, you're going to handle this, so want to make sure it's articulated what is different from, if anything, from the last time we presented this. All in your hand.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the third version of an ordinance that has been before the commissioners twice before. This ordinance was presented first at the June workshop meeting, second at the June regular meeting. And the commissioners may recall that at the June regular meeting, there was some discussion about just the wording under Chapter 95-12 definitions, Section 1. There's revised ordinance included in the agenda as a support document. So the lines that we're talking about are just line 49 and 50. of the support document. And the discussion was related to delineating the beach as it relates to concessionaires. Commissioners may recall, members of the public may recall, that this ordinance is really just removing references to Deauville Beach as a result of the state taking back ownership and maintenance responsibilities of Deauville Beach. So on line 49 and 50 of the support document, there was some discussion at the last meeting about, again, trying to clarify the delineation of the beach, and there was some confusion about the water line and then also the edge of the boardwalk. And in some cases, like near the north side of town, the boardwalk eventually terminates and then it becomes vegetation and dune. So just for simplicity, the revised ordinance, again, under Section 1, this is Chapter 95-12 definition, Section 1, again, reading from lines 49 and 50, the entire beach from the side of Maryland Ave, from the north side of Maryland Avenue to the north side of Pennsylvania Avenue. And we reference beach because beach is actually defined in that section, in Section 95, and they define beach as the area east of the boardwalk or east of vegetation line and dunes where there is no boardwalk to the watermark. So I think that adds a little bit of clarity in terms of the designated area on the beach in which concessionaires can operate. And so again, that was a recommendation, I think, that was made by Commissioner Gossett at the last meeting to try and clarify that language. That's what is before you today. There were no changes to the agenda item reports, the last two agenda item reports that were both presented in June.
Any comments by the commissioners?
I appreciate the updated change, and I think it makes much clearer to us what we're talking about. So based on that, I would like to make a motion.
I want,
Oh,
would you mind if I'm?
no, you go right ahead.
Anybody in the public would like to speak? Harvey?
Thank you, Mayor.
Name
Harvey,
again.
Harvey Schulman, 149B in Lopan Avenue, not A. I have a concern about this ordinance, if it would be kind enough to go back to the first part where it struck out some language. Thank you. Section 1, okay. I'm at the age where I need my glasses. So you're changing here in the second or third sentence. If you can make it a little smaller, please.
Oops, that's not going to work.
No vehicle, so it used to say no vehicle over 22 feet, 3 inches. I mean, that's what it says now. It used to say 40 feet in length. May park within the corporate limits of the city of Rehoboth Beach. So I'd like to point out a couple of things. The first sentence of that paragraph uses that 22 feet, 3 inches, and it talks about parking a vehicle or a motor vehicle on any street, okay? The second sentence actually seems to be more inclusive. In other words, the second sentence doesn't refer to a street. It says no vehicle over 22 feet, 3 inches may park within the corporate limits of the city of Rehoboth Beach, which I'm going to explain why in a second. Is that limited to parking on a street, or does it mean anywhere in the city of Rehoboth Beach? And so I think since you're opening up the question of what size vehicles should be allowed to park in Rehoboth Beach, it raises a bigger question that some of you have dealt with in the past, particularly if you look at the first sentence, no owner or operator of any vehicle, including a trailer. Okay, so what I want to point out here is this is not the zoning section of the code. Okay, this is the parking and vehicle section of the code. If you look at the definitions, which I think is 92.1 or 92.4, I can't remember. there's a definition of trailer. And a trailer is a non-motorized vehicle. So you can think of a trailer, among other things, as something that's pulled by a motorized vehicle. So this section here deals with a couple of things. It deals with vehicles, not just motor vehicles, because look at the first sentence. No owner or operator of any vehicle, including a trailer, motor vehicle, or any connected combination that's more than 22 feet, blah, blah, blah. So it deals with various types of vehicles, including motor vehicles and non-motor vehicles, which specifically includes trailers. The second sentence, which may be a little duplicative of the first sentence, because the second sentence says anywhere in the city, and the second sentence refers not just to motor vehicles, any vehicle, but now you're changing the size, you're going down from 40 feet to 22 feet 3 inches, presumably because that mirrors the language in the first sentence, which again may be duplicative. I would like to suggest you look at the issue of whether you really want trailers in particular. Let's put aside mobile homes, RVs, that kind of thing. That's a little more complicated. But whether you want trailers that people pull, do you want really 20-foot trailers or 18-foot trailers or even 10-foot trailers being able to be parked on city streets forever? Because now what you're doing here, although you're reducing the length of the trailer, you're kind of giving signals to people that if you have a trailer, even if it looks like crap, no matter what the condition, if you have a trailer, you can park it on the city street or anywhere in the city as long as it's less than 22 feet and 3 inches. You are affirmatively saying that today to anyone in this city who wants to park that kind of trailer on the street. And I do not think that, and I don't think I'm the only one, and I will say, I mean, candidly, Mayor, I came to this meeting today not for this. I thought this was kind of conforming, you know, the whole Deauville Beach thing and everything else going on. And then I happened to actually read the ordinance, or the proposed ordinance. I don't think that residents in the city who have been in touch with a number of you about trailers in the city, I don't think any of them realized that you unintentionally were making a change in this provision which affirmatively sends out the message to people. You got a trailer, doesn't matter what it looks like, as long as it's less than 22 feet 3 inches, you can park it for 24 hours, a week, a month. You can just leave it on the city streets, even though it may be tagged, right? You know you have something about parking about boats. You can't park a boat, you know, more than an hour. Now that's a boat, so people don't have to load and unload boats. So an hour may be a reasonable amount of time, get your boat out, right? Trailers are a little different. Maybe people are moving stuff, maybe they need 24 hours, maybe they need 48 hours, maybe they need 72 hours. But if you're gonna mess with this section of the parking code, I really urge you to change that sentence where you're gonna go from 40 feet to 22 feet to say, no vehicle over 22 feet 3 inches, comma, and no trailer, comma, may be parked within the corporate limits except blah, 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 and maybe say, and except trailers may be parked for 48 hours, 72 hours. Say what you want. It's a really simple fix for something that is now a problem in the city and is going to continue to be more of a problem as more people see that this has been done, can be done, and the city can't do anything about it, and now you're putting your imprimatur on it by this. So I don't know that any commissioner is here. I can't make any, motions or do anything, but I really urge you, you are opening up this chapter, you're opening up this provision. Please, my suggestion, if you want to leave it the way it is, no vehicle over 22 feet, 3 inches in length, comma, and no trailer, comma, may park within the city corporate limits of the city of Rehoboth Beach, blah, blah, except, and then add an except at the end, and except trailers may be parked for 24, 48, 72 hours. Please do this, otherwise we're exacerbating current situations and creating a real mess that will be very hard to get out of in the future, and are going to leave a lot of your constituents not very happy. I'll be glad to take any questions, but I think I made my point.
Thank you,
Thank
Harvey.
you.
Thank you, Harvey. Anybody else? Back to the commissioners. I see merit in some of what Harvey's saying. I don't know I agreed 100% to it, just I'm hearing it for the first time now, but I know there is a problem with trailers in general. And it seems to me that this is the time to maybe try to resolve it rather than make the amendment now and then go back in a month and do it. Did you see any merit? I mean, it's maybe not a fair question for you, but to waiting a little bit?
This has been on our radar for a couple months now. I'd rather just, there's a lot of other provisions that this ordinance is taking care of. I hear what Harvey is saying 100%. And I do think it's an issue that we need to resolve, but I think it gets more complicated with construction vehicles, moving vehicles, a whole host of other things. So I think we need to be very smart and diligent how we look at that one problem. But I wouldn't want us dealing with that, I hope in a swift manner, to delay this any further, I think is where I'm at on it.
I think the only other comment that I'd offer, also just to add to your comments, commissioners, I think part of the intent, I don't know that I was here when this was originally drafted, but the no vehicle over the 22 feet, or in that case, it was 40 feet, can park within the limits, except that they can be parked in the municipal parking lot adjacent to the municipal building. So I think if we open up that paragraph to allow for trailers, now we'd effectively be allowing trailers to park at the municipal complex, which I think just introduces another challenge with us in terms of permitting those vehicles in those spaces and managing. It's limited. I think there's 3 spaces, Chief, available for oversized vehicles. So that would be my only comment, is if we open that up to trailers, we could add to more congestion in those spaces. So.
Well, the only thing I can offer is that the turmoil that I hear through the grapevine and from constituents on some of the streets, especially on the north side of town, I would believe, without having canvassed all of them, that they do not want, nor does anyone on any other street in town want, trailers of any condition parked on a public street in front of their home for extended periods of time. And if that's truly what this enables, I can't say that being tone deaf to what the residents find upsetting, and granted, I'm going to say, I have only heard it on the peripheral, seems to me to be fair to them.
I would concur. There's three, I mean, with all candor, on Henlopen Avenue where I live, and I get lots of the knocks on the doors and the talk about this. It's been going on back and forth with me since last summer, and a couple of the trailers had been there for months prior. And if we approve this as is, those trailers can stay there. And I don't think that's what we intend. I don't think we want trailers just sitting in city park, sitting on city property in front of people's houses, unless we do.
Harvey, we have a 3-minute time limit, but you've got about a half a minute left.
Thank you.
I
I
know
think
that's a challenge.
the Assistant City Manager and Commissioner Janowski made good points, but I want to make this very clear, okay? A moving truck is a motor vehicle. It's not a trailer. You have to, I have looked through if you don't want to vote on this at this meeting, that's okay if you want to go back and look at the definitions. But if you don't do this at this meeting, as Commissioner Bennett said, this issue has been floating around for a year. You're now opening up Chapter 92. So I can pretty much guarantee, if you vote on this at this meeting the way it is, it's going to be months before you deal with the trailer issue. That's just the way it's going to be. If you go back and look at the definitions, a trailer is defined as a non-motorized vehicle, or a vehicle not propelled by motor power, I think is the exact words. So if you prohibit trailers from being parked, that has nothing to do with moving trucks, construction vehicles. There's also a provision in the zoning code, which is a whole different thing, and another part of Chapter 92 that actually deals with construction trailers, which gives permission for a construction trailer as a type of temporary structure to be authorized. So putting in here that no trailers can be parked for more than 48, 70, choose whatever you want, not months. It doesn't prevent a moving truck, a construction vehicle, and insofar as somebody has a trailer, which is a construction trailer, they just go to another section of Chapter 92 where they can get permission actually to have a construction trailer there during the duration of the construction. So I guess I'm begging you to please take the opportunity to deal with this problem. There's no need to get more specific, but I think what Commissioner Bennett and Commissioner Sharp said about a lot of upset, if this meeting happens and you folks approve this and affirmatively now say that any vehicle, and a vehicle is a trailer, it's not a motor vehicle. If you now vote to say that any vehicle under 22 feet 3 inches can park anywhere in this city, there are going to be a lot more unhappy people. So I urge you either please take another few weeks. You got another, I know you're tired of this. It seems like a non-issue. You thought you put it to bed. Commissioner Gossett had a correct technical argument about what streets are involved. Please, take another few weeks, get the language right if you want, if you're uncomfortable with what's proposed today, but please, please do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. Anybody else?
Just a question for Harvey, actually, or maybe Alex. What we don't want to do, I think, is create a conflict of law. If we were to make the change that you've suggested, the way you've suggested, which sounds logical to me, frankly, how does that play with the other section dealing with construction trailers? Would we need to be specific here
Well,
So that we're not creating any ambiguity for that section?
it's an excellent question. You know, you have a city solicitor. I'm not a Delaware attorney, although I've been practicing law for a very long time. Where you have two sections and where one says you can't do this, but another section says you can do it as long as you get this permission. And the
supersedes.
permission, you know, it's not automatic.
Right.
So it's not really a conflict. This section says you can't do it. The next section, which the other section say you can do it, but you got to get this permit.
Okay.
So, and like I say, if you need 30 days to look at it, you know, take the 30 days, but please let's get this taken care of.
Well, I want to interject that I know and acknowledge
Thank
that
you.
it's been on the radar for the commissioners for several meetings. But recently, it had been brought to my attention that this really, and maybe Commissioner Bennett knows more about this than I do, that it really impacts the quality of life for folks that are property owners in close proximity. So I don't think it's unreasonable for, as long as we have taken sometimes years, like the tree code, to take another 30 days, if that's what's needed, to make sure we get this right and don't exacerbate the situation, because it just makes us appear, and it doesn't make us appear, it makes us tone deaf to the residents that I understand have been trying to understand, trying to solve, meeting with city officials and feeling that no matter whether right or wrong, going away with the feeling they're not being heard and we're not being logical and we're not doing the right things on their behalf. So I don't see that there is a great deal of risk in trying to get this right. To me, it's the converse.
I think we all want to get this fixed and right. So why don't we just defer it to the August workshop
So
meeting?
I guess if I could, so even if the commissioners were to do nothing today, A is existing code. So anything less than 22 feet, 3 inches can park in the city. So whether we do something or we don't do something, if we do or don't act on this ordinance, it's still the case that a trailer can be parked on the street if it's less than 22 feet, 3 inches. This ordinance was drafted only with respect to Deauville Beach. So what this does is it removes the ability for a vehicle that is anywhere from 22 feet, 3 inches up to 40 feet from parking at Deauville Beach.
So let me make sure I'm getting you correct, Evan, because maybe I'm off on the wrong track. This doesn't solve anything for residents who are having quality of life issues on either the north or south side of town.
No, that would have to be a separate topic related to trailers. This is just removing the reference to Deauville Beach. Again, the whole first sentence is existing code today.
With all due respect, I just don't think that's accurate. I just don't think that's accurate because the first sentence goes with all sorts of things, trailers, motor vehicles, etc. When you change the second sentence, remember, while it talks about municipal lots and other stuff, you are affirmatively putting in here, you are basically sending out the signal that whatever the restriction was on parking vehicles 40 feet or more in length, and that's not limited to Deauville Beach. That sentence says within the corporate limits of Rehoboth Beach. So you're changing what could be parked within the corporate limits of Rehoboth Beach from 40 feet
Correct.
to 22 feet. And the only message that comes from that is any vehicle that's less than 22 feet, 3 inches can be parked anywhere in the corporate limits because that's what you've now said it. You said 40 feet was too big, but 22 feet, 3 inches is okay. Please, someone had a great idea. This is an important issue. You got a window to deal with it. Take 30 days. I am happy to meet with the city solicitor, with the city manager, with the planning director, with Matt, with anybody to try to make some suggestions on wording. I'm not trying to open up, and the neighbors aren't trying to open up the whole parking code. This is a simple solution if you just take another 30 days. Thank you. And 30 days is not going to be the beginning or the end of whatever parking happens at Deauville Beach. You know, we put up with it to this point. Whatever's happened the last few months at Deauville Beach can happen for another 30 days. Thank you.
Well, let me comment here. When I first looked at this, I solely looked at it as a way to remediate the problems with parking at Deauville Beach. I do believe that it probably would be prudent for us to defer this a little bit, to give further discussion to trailers and the situation that's in the north of town. I don't think that by delaying it, it would be a problem at Deauville Beach because the state park people aren't going to let trailers in there. So, you know, they're going to dictate. So I am leaning heavily toward saying let's give this a little more thought on how to probably cure both things at the same time.
Yeah, and I completely understand the assistant city manager's position, and it's why I said let's vote on this and then come back and talk about trailers. But I agree with Mr. Schulman, and I think Commissioner Sharp said it perfectly. It is the perception that we're tone deaf if we pass this. If we're playing around with this section of the code and we don't address an issue that is on everyone's mind, especially on Henlopen Avenue at the moment.
Can I ask a question? This doesn't have, I own a trailer, and it sits out in my driveway, or not, well, parking area, and I'm happy to put it anywhere it needs to go, including inside a garage. But we're talking about over 22 feet. That's arbitrary, is it not? I mean, we could redefine that, could we not? I mean, that's because it's related to this other section of the code. But if we want to have some kind of trailer prohibition, why are we limiting ourselves to over 22 feet? if
22 feet. This would say a trailer,
we're
whether it's
saying any trailer, no matter what.
10 feet, 12
Got it.
feet, 20
Okay,
feet.
okay.
For more than however many hours you want, so people can load, unload, whatever. It just can't sit there on the streets in the city. This is not the image that many of us want in Rehoboth Beach. And Commissioner Chernowski, I know originally you were kind of doubtful about postponing those all. I really appreciate your comments about let's take a timeout for another 30 days and see if we can find a way to fix this problem. Thank you.
I'm still not getting, but this is in two parts. I'm not. You can say I don't have this legal mind, but the prohibition is also parking at all, right? We're defining this to streets, because I mean the other issue that we're sort of bantering about here involves a trailer that's on somebody's private property, is it not?
I think we don't want to get into the
I
details
know we
about
don't wanna
trailers
get
right
into- I'm
now.
just
I
trying
think
to
the
say-
question is,
okay. I'm happy to go along with.
do we
what
vote
you're
on
saying.
this and then come back to address trailers, or do we put a pause and say, in the August workshop meeting, we're just going to take a look at this again? I think that's the decision right now.
And I think the only thing I'd add, respectfully, Commissioner, to that is, so this ordinance amends 5 sections of the city code. What we have talked about is just one section. So I would ask the commissioners, and I would look to the city solicitor to help with this, but if we could pass the ordinance omitting just the section 9238, which we've talked about, if there's a desire to look at this a little bit more closely, that way we can at least check off these other 4 changes and not defer those as well.
Okay.
That would just
All
be
right.
my ask.
I think we're doing what we think we want to do. I'm just confused.
I have no idea where we are.
Okay, well,
And this is a perfect example, in my opinion, of conversations that should take place prior to commissioners' meetings and to get things straight. We have a willing citizen right here to kind of guide some of the discussion. And I just don't understand why we seem not prepared sometimes. But that's me.
Well,
I'm leaving, so you don't have to listen to it anymore. So knock yourselves out.
okay.
I'm very amenable to approving the 4 other sections in this and just leaving out section 92-38 for the moment.
Yeah, you could certainly propose a conditional motion omitting section 28, or 38, sorry, omitting specifically lines 15 through 28.
Does anyone have a problem with that?
I would like the motion to talk about exactly what the elimination accomplishes.
Do you want to look at each section right now, one at a time? Is that what you
No,
want?
I'm just saying, I think there should be a statement of what the intention of this is if we're going to take a vote right now, because I'm thoroughly confused since this discussion started.
Oh,
If others aren't, that's fine.
I'm concerned that we're, in terms of what Mr. Schulman is stating, I don't want to create a unintended consequence. So therefore, if there's an immediate remedy that isolates this strictly to Deauville Beach, then I'm okay with that. But if this is also giving sanction, an unintended sanction, I don't want to do that. So that's what's concerning me.
well, as I look through here, as Evan said, all the other sections remove Deauville Beach from the code. So it seems to me that would be apropos to vote on that today, but to defer on 9238 until we have additional discussion that includes trailers in general.
I think this situation has been going on much too long.
I agree.
And an adjustment, as suggested by Mr. Schulman, may be appropriate for this. In further reading this, we use the phrase in here, in the current language, within the corporate limits of the city of Rehoboth Beach. Deauville Beach is within the corporate limits of Rehoboth Beach, is it not?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Francis, it is.
Have we determined that? So is that conflicting terms in this area here? If we talk about except vehicles, length may be parked within the corporate limits of the city of Rehoboth Beach, but then we reference Deauville Beach elsewhere. Is that not one in the same? So I think investigation of 9238 lines, basically section 1, lines 11 through 27, would need a different investigation?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move that we adopt an ordinance amending section 92-264, special considerations and exceptions, chapter 92, section 95-12, definitions, chapter 195, section 195-1, definitions, and chapter 224, section 224-2, smoking tobacco products, to remove rules and regulations for Deauville Beach as they relate to parking, beach concessions, and smoking. And this motion eliminates the reference to chapter 92, section 92-38, parking restriction for certain vehicles, for purposes of further clarification of what we intend.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Don Preston, a second by Commissioner Ed Chernowski to
Amend certain sections.
amend in front of us, section 92-264, 95-12, 195-1, 224-2. Is that right?
Yes.
Is there any, right?
Yes.
Is there any further discussion?
I just want to make sure that when Chris Flood is listening to this, the intention of deferring on 92-38 is so that we can further discuss specifically trailers parked in the city limits.
All right.
I would concur with that, but I want to add one thing. There's new trailer creep going on in the city as well, with people putting camper trailers in their driveways and plugging them in, and I don't know if people are staying in them or what's going on, but I think that needs to be included in this area within parking and trailers, or the definition of trailer when that's discussed.
The other consideration, I would just want to make sure, as the city staff and Mr. Schulman, if he helps them, I know construction vehicles are exempted in trailers, but I want to make sure that landscape equipment and stuff are also covered, just so we're looking at it thoroughly.
All right, so we've got a motion in front of us. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Tony Sharp,
I'm voting no because I have a great concern for unintended consequences and not enough evaluation time.
all right. Commissioner Chernowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett,
I vote no based on insufficient information carrying this forward.
Commissioner Bennett,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Markert,
I'm going to vote yes.
Commissioner Preston,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye also at this time. The motion carries with 2 noes and the rest yays. Thank you. So we've got some homework to do.
So Mayor, do you know when the issue of 9238 will be brought up then?
Well, we'll talk with these fellows on my left and right to see when they can do something, because this, to me, this is now expanded beyond just 92-238. And I think we need to look deeper into trailers in general. So that would be my thought. And so I can't commit to putting this on the August workshop yet, but as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the city manager, thank you for doing this, because if you had passed 9238,
Harvey, just,
you all don't know this maybe, and I have not been in communication with the city manager, but I know the city manager has been in communications with members of the public about the 9238 situation. And I didn't want to say that before I voted, but if you had passed that, you basically would have been pulling out the rug from under what the city manager has been trying to do in discussing the issue with other people. So thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is consider adoption of a resolution setting a public hearing to amend Chapter 270, Sections 270-4 and 270-21B1 of the Municipal Code regarding basement-related definitions, the gross floor area exemption for basements, and the classification of existing non-habitable basements with a ceiling height of less than 6 foot 8 inches. Just a reminder that these proposed amendments are part of the zoning code, and zoning amendments we're required to conduct a public hearing, And so today is merely consider adoption of a resolution setting the public hearing. Is that anything you want to say? So this is actually, I think, the first time we're seeing the proposed ordinance, correct? I mean, it's the first time we're seeing the resolution, but it's also the first time we're seeing the proposal to amend, because last time, up to the last two meetings, we've just been orally talking about it, correct? So do you want,
I could just say one thing, just to be helpful here. So voting in favor of the resolution is essentially just opening the door to consideration of the ordinance. We're not voting on whether we approve the ordinance right now.
so how far do we want to go, since this is the first time in front of the public and us, we're seeing the ordinance, do we want Corey to go through it?
I think we've discussed this extensively already.
Is there anything in particular that you'd like to highlight?
There's one issue that I'd like to speak to, and that was an exception that was put in there, and I just want to clarify that in case you would like us to clarify a single word in this ordinance, this draft ordinance, and this would be if we look under the ordinance versus the case for basements embedment, it would be under the definition of non-habitable basement.
Is that what I have on the screen here?
No.
You have a line number?
This would
That's
be,
that's the resolution. You need
this
to go
would be
to the
line number
ordinance.
113.
Let me, hold on.
It's page
And
number
I'd
3.
like to also
Where are we-
publicly credit,
Where are we going to? Exhibit A draft ordinance?
That should be it, yes. Yes. In line 113.
Page 3.
Right, line 113 right here?
that's correct. And I want to credit this question coming from a citizen who sent an email in, and it was a very good question. I wanted to take the time here to publicly address it. And if we were to make any small revisions to this, this would be the one spot that if you would like us to clarify, we could do that. And it comes from the word appliances. So what we've written here reads walls/partitions, finishes, and electrical upgrades pertaining to appliances shall be permitted in accordance with their listing and label, manufacturer's installation instructions, or under Chapter 102 building construction. And to clarify the intent of this section, because last time we were here, this resolution was that these spaces would not have any walls or partitions. This isn't necessarily a loophole, but a safeguard. It's a safeguard to protect the city from having another conflict between the zoning code and adopted building code. This exception allows for those appliances that may require separation barriers due to the ICC codes and/or manufacturer installation requirements, not just currently, but in 10 to 20 years from now as well. This allows us to keep the intent of the zoning ordinance while not simultaneously creating a violation of current or future adopted building codes. These requirements would only ever be specified in building codes for things such as pool equipment, furnaces, electrical or geothermal heat pumps, air conditioning, water heaters, and/or sump pumps. And that's the area, if we would like to clarify the appliances that we're talking about, is what we could do.
Makes sense.
Well,
Question, Mayor?
I'm sorry, Francis Keller, I think, wrote that letter, and she was questioning appliances. I happened to read it the same way and thinking that, refrigerators, freezers or something which I would approve being down there, but not a stove or other things. So maybe including that listing rather than the word appliances would help resolve that.
That's correct. I chose the word appliances from a building inspector's perspective. We see this word all the time in the fuel gas code and in the mechanical code, but it's only specified for those appliances that would be listed in those codes. So your generic household appliance, you think of a microwave or even a lamp or a TV, those normally aren't specified. But this way, at least if we include this provision, what's happened recently is the pool equipment that is going down in basements on occasion is being close to either sump pumps or another form of an appliance. And what the electrical inspectors have been requiring is a separation barrier due to corrosion. And so I didn't want us to write a code here and then an electrical inspector would come out and force them to do that, and then they would no longer be able to take advantage of the zoning code. So this gives us a safeguard against those features moving forward.
Mayor, very thoughtful, Corey. Thank you. I assume we would include in the list sump pump, dehumidifiers?
We can take a look back and have those in well before the timeframe needed for the public hearing. That's all I have as far as any minor adjustments to make.
That was a good catch. I think it's a good addition. Makes sense.
Francis, did you want to add anything about your letter?
I, Francis Kelleher, 318 Stokely. No, not necessarily. Just to say, I hope everybody read it. So, Corey, it was very helpful to understand the intent, your intent, where, and when I read it, all I thought of was, the word appliances, and that home appliances include things, simple things like a television set is listed. And so the way it would create a loophole back to the top where you were excluding, I don't know if you want to scroll up there, Mayor, just up to I think it's A3, or so A3, it would have inadvertently, it would have been an unintended consequence that you could have had partitions so that you could put your any sort of home appliance in a partition space.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Francis. Any other members of the public like to say anything? We'll bring it back to the commissioners then. Again, what we're looking for is consideration of a motion to adopt a resolution setting a public hearing in this matter, and the public hearing date would be August 16th, 2024 at 2:00 p.m.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution by the mayor and commissioners of the City of Rehoboth Beach proposing that a public hearing be held on the subject of amending the Municipal Code of the City of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 2001, Sections 270-4 and 270-21B, relating to the definition of basements and habitable basements and non-habitable basements and crawl space and floor finish and wall finish and gross floor area, and amending the gross floor exemption for certain basements and regulating certain existing non-habitable basements.
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Don Preston to adopt a resolution proposing that a public hearing be held on August 16, 2024, 2:00 p.m., specifically looking at amending sections 270-4, 270-21B, relating to definitions of basement et cetera, as noted in the resolution. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I think the date and time was not included in the motion, so I think it probably there needs to be a friendly amendment.
Setting the date of, amend the motion, 16th day of August, 2024, at 2 p.m.
Second.
We have a friendly amendment to set the public hearing on August 16, 2024 at 2:00 p.m. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the friendly amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And the friendly amendment is changed, and now in front of us is the vote on the adoption of the resolution before us. Is there any further discussion there? If not, we'll also do a group vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And the resolution is adopted, setting a public hearing in this matter of habitable basements for August 16, 2024 at 2:00 p.m. Thank you very much. With that, thank you, Corey. With that, we're going to go to new business, discuss and possible consideration of authorizing a license agreement for an awning to encroach over public space at 31 Rehoboth Avenue Beach Boutique. 31 Rehoboth Avenue Beach Boutiques is the old Carlton's. You'll probably be referred to that space for years to come. So congratulations for taking over that space. We're going to, we'll start off with Mary Ellen.
Good afternoon. This will be a brief report. The purpose of this is just to discuss and consider an application for a license agreement for an awning to encroach over public space located at 31 Rehoboth Avenue. The applicant, Lighthouse Construction, on behalf of Derrickson Properties LLC, requests that awnings be installed at 31 Rehoboth Avenue as part of their tenant fit-out for Beach Boutique. Per Chapter 102-58, Article 19, licensing for awnings, canopies, and marquees, a property owner who proposes the construction of an awning, canopy, or marquee encroaching into or over public property shall obtain a license agreement from the Board of Commissioners authorizing such encroachment. The attachments embedded into this agenda item includes a draft license agreement, the awning plans, which is Exhibit A, and the application letter and schematic of the canopy. This application, plans, and license agreement have been reviewed by staff and the city solicitor and are found to be in compliance with the code with the exception of the business license. Given that the property located at 31 Rehoboth Avenue, formerly the Carlton's is currently a shell, the business license can't be approved until a tenant fit-out permit is approved and a certificate of occupancy is issued. A meeting for the tenant fit-out permit just occurred yesterday, and that process is moving forward. Staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners approve the license agreement for an awning to encroach over the public space at 31 Rehoboth Avenue Beach Boutique. That concludes my brief presentation.
And if I recall, were there two license agreements with different dates, or am I? Same. This is the draft one, so we want to make sure we're looking at the license agreement that is attached to the agenda item report.
Yes.
Dated July 15th, 2024. Are there any questions,
I just have
comments by the commissioners before we?
Yeah, one question. Are we authorizing the licensing agreement? Or are we authorizing the city manager to enter into the licensing agreement?
I think the mayor been signing? The mayor's been signing them, so I would just say, what do you think? Just authorize?
Authorize the mayor to enter into a license agreement.
Fine with me, just so the motion reflects that.
Yeah.
You want me to-
So are there any questions? We'll go to, introduce yourself. Are you all new to town? And
Well, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Bob McLeish. I'm with Lighthouse Construction, and to
Okay.
my left is Katie Sarver, who is the owner of Derrickson Properties LLC, and we are here to answer any questions you may have on the application.
Get closer.
just pull that microphone toward you. Okay. Well, we've got your drawings and everything, and they look complete. The agenda item report mentions that they're found to be in compliance with the code, and there's a staff recommendation to approve the license agreement. It looks fairly simple to me.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
I don't think so.
Okay, you're good, you're good, you're good.
Mayor, I move that we authorize the mayor to enter into a license agreement for an awning to encroach over public space at 31 Rehoboth Avenue.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Don Preston, a second by Commissioner Ed Chernowski to authorize the mayor to enter into a license agreement for the awning at
31.
31 Rehoboth Avenue. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by, what?
Go to the public first.
Shall I do that? Any members of the public want to say anything? Walter, Francis? Nope. All righty, back to us. All those in favor of the motion to authorize the mayor to enter into a license agreement for this noted awning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And the motion's carried unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You,
Had to wait all that time.
You're not getting
thank
it
you,
back.
thank you.
Thank y'all, best of luck.
Good luck.
When are you opening?
Talking to myself.
The tenant will open sometime this fall.
In fall. Very good.
I just own the building.
Oh, okay, okay, very good.
Heard it from my father.
Very good. Ah, Ms. Derrickson. With that, are there any commissioner announcements or comments?
I only have one comment, and I think it's germane to the conduct of the commission and staff. I feel very strongly that when any commissioner asks a question, that you can answer, that if you need to say, but you don't, I'm not giving you the full picture, whether it's a staff member or another commissioner, it is right and transparent to be able to say, this is my answer today, but you do not have the full picture. I don't think that's asking too much, so that commissioners do not leave meetings under one impression and hold that impression for months. That's all.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll go to review future meeting dates. The next workshop is Monday, August 5th at 9:00 a.m. We'll go to citizen comment. Walter or Francis, you have anything? These are 3-minute limits and usually for off-topic topics.
Walter Brittingham, 123 on Open Avenue. I was rather disappointed, and Henry's doing a good job, and Lynn got out about the water restrictions, but to see that we pulled a well at the Lynch wells. And I don't think I heard anything in your report or anything about that. Did I miss that? Was I out of the room? In these days that the administration, as you're running things, that there is no way for the public to know what's happening, or the people that had the water and sewer committees and street committees, stuff like that, that used to function. I would think there would have been something said, especially in the middle of the comments, where we were sharing some of our water with Dewey Beach that were out there in high season pulling a well. Should it not have been better done? Changing subjects, your DelDOT and ADEL for the scheduling for the street repairs, but I heard beforehand months ago that there were some questions. Who is and/or we're not getting any input or output from you folks? What's the answer on the crosswalks? Because I understood that the crosswalks were a problem. There was some disagreements, so who is specifying what's going in for the crosswalks, and do you have any say in that, or have you had say and just not come back to the people? And I ask an answer for that if you don't mind. And just a separate comment because I'm me, and I said something to Henry about at the Lynch Wells, we used to have a problem, very heavy times, and the people in utilities can project how many people are in town, but they get rid of the excess air that's in the system, and it used to be excessive out at the Lynch Wells, and you've got some new equipment that Henry said would be installed by the end, or hooked up by the end of the month. That equipment's in place, and I think it would have been nice because the people in the condos right next to there, they take a real beating when all the sewer gases come out down at the lift station. And lastly, I'm very disappointed. We have bicycles on the sidewalk. We have bicycles with no lights. We're not getting enforcement, Chief, and I know you have a problem. We have one-wheelers, we have scooters going down the streets at 55 miles an hour. I don't know what you do, but it needs some guidance from up front. It needs to go to legislature. Bicycles need to stop at stop signs. You can't take liberties away. The hell with that. Yes, we could. But nobody wanted to do it at the time. It's still a wonderful place to live, but you need a water and sewer committee, and you can watch the clock all you want, but I'm right.
Thank you, Walter. Anybody else, Francis, anything? All righty. With that, there is no further business. I adjourn this meeting at 4:37 p.m. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.